Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another top 10. I haven't done one of these in like what seems like ages. Now, anyways, I did want to do my Q&A video obviously this week. It was supposed to come out on Tuesday, so that kind of dates this video, but um I unfortunately was not able to because I was so sick at the time, and I'm still sick as you can hear from my voice. It's still kind of messed up. But I figured what I'd do at least for you guys and girls is to give you guys a top 10 because I know I had a whole bunch of people ask me recently, are you doing more top 10s, etc. And I'm like, I trust me, I love doing these things, but they're just a pain in the ass to do. And this is the best time I can do it because I don't feel as sick. My voice is still messed up as you can hear, and I'm probably gonna have several jumps because of course either maybe I'm coughing or something like that. But hopefully you can put up with that. Now, anyways, you probably see from the title it goes top 10 taboo anime, and you're like, what does that mean exactly? What is this gonna be, like a scary video? In many ways, the word taboo is something that is terrifying in its own right, but at the same time is not always noticeable, because I mean the word taboo is essentially going against the norms of society. So for example, incest being one of the biggest ones used in anime all the time, stuff like that. But there's other means of taboo, and I'm going to explain with each one of these videos why, or excuse me, each one of these anime that I chose on my top 10, why these are considered, in my opinion, taboo anime in many ways. Now I'll say this right now, folks, a few of them of course are stretches. Obviously they're like, wait, is that really taboo? But I'm just talking about the concept of what's in there, and I'll explain it more when I actually get to each one of the titles. And also, one of these anime is not fully finished yet, so I don't want to really spoil it yet, but one of them, it's not fully finished. It's not a fully finished show yet, but I really enjoy the show, and I think it's really a great example of taboo, in anime in general. So I do want to get on with that one first. So, also, one more thing. These are not in ranked order. This is not a ranking video, folks. I had someone argue one time with me before, going, "Oh, top 10, it's gonna be a ranking video, or why is it not in order of like top, like number 9, number 10?" No, it's not that. These are just 10 anime I consider really good for whatever subject I'm doing. So, it's my opinion. Please respect my opinion, and we'll have no issues. Because if you put it in the comments anything like that, I'm just gonna delete it. Be honest with you, because I explained it here. Anyways, getting on with the list at number 10. Kuzuno Hankai, or as many know it as Scums Wish. Now, this is a perfect example of something that's taboo, and many people will not see that because they don't understand what is taboo about it. Well, because like I said before, taboo usually, when you think of anime, you think of like either lolis, for example, or of course incest, or stuff like that. But in this case, we have something that's very against the norms of society, where we have our main characters falling in love with one another, but they're really not in love with one another. More so, they are not the boyfriend and girlfriend that you should expect in the normal concept of boyfriend and girlfriend. They are just using and abusing one another because they can't get with the people they really care about. And in many ways, that right there goes against society, because you're like, wait a second, so these people don't love each other, but they're just using each other for sexual desires and cardinal sins and stuff like that? No, it's, that's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly what makes this so taboo. Now, here's the thing though, it's like, you might think, oh, well, that's kind of stretching, isn't it? Not really. I mean, the word taboo in general is something that, like, people do weird things that are kind of just seen as, like, why would you do something like that? And then people go, oh, well, that's how my life works, or that's how I get my joy. And in many cases, the characters of Scums Wisher, Kuzuno Hankai, are exactly like that. They are going about lives that are really messed up in many ways, because of course they're obviously wanting to be with these people and having to realize, oh, we can't get the people we want, so let's just use one another. I mean, you have, many things that are in here besides, of course, the obviously weird relationships in general. There are people that use one another for various things, of course, but those are less, I think, taboo, because I mean, in general, you have people that do that all the time, that use other people for sex and stuff like that. More so, what I'm aiming to understand here is why these characters, and I think many people, as we're still watching the show, obviously still airing, are trying to figure out, why are these characters not just going and maybe finding someone else instead? Why are they going after their targets that they really have no chance of getting, and yet just deciding, let's just screw each other up by kind of just using and abusing one another? That's what I want to get at, and I think that is a perfect example of something that is very taboo in general for an anime. Now, I'll say this right now, like I said before, it's hard for me to put this on the list in general because I know the show's not done and we still have many episodes left. But I do want to say that this is one of the top shows that I'm watching right now this season, and I really enjoy it because I think it's just something that goes against the typical tropes of romance stories, and that's what I think is such a great thing about it. I also think that in many ways this is a perfect example to kind of start this list off to show you what I mean by the whole concept of a taboo show in general. Now, moving on to number 9. Evangelion. Now I know many of you are gonna be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! This is a mecha show. What's taboo about this? Please explain yourself, Blade. I don't understand what the hell you mean by this one." No, here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is gonna be a big spoiler if you've never seen Evangelion. So big spoiler alert. I'm just gonna say that right now. I'll give you guys a few seconds to realize it. Maybe skip to the next part of it to find what I'm talking about next to the list. But Evangelion deals with many things, both religious and kind of metaphysical and meta religion, because in many ways some of the religious concepts of this are almost backwards. Like, for example, I talked about this in an earlier video when I did Evangelion review a long time ago, but I said that in many ways it's kind of ironic that you have people go against angels when angels are seen as the typical savior beings, not the enemy, and yet people in this show are going against something that they named angel. It's very interesting to me in that concept. Now, that's not the only thing I'm focusing on, though. One of the big things about Evangelion, and many of you, as you know, is that the Eva units are actually, a lot of them are kind of, let's just say, made in very odd ways. Especially, I want to focus on Eva Unit 1, which is made with, Shinji's mother is as a soul it inherits inside of the robot itself. And that in itself is very odd and very taboo. I mean, what it is essentially is experimenting with humans to put them into things that they should not be in. Now, that right there, human experimentation is always considered something that's very taboo in general. I mean, another good example of this, and I was thinking of even having this list at first point, but I decided it doesn't have enough taboo stuff, was like Full Metal Alchemist. Because Full Metal Alchemist, in many ways, has a lot of taboo concepts as well. But I wanted to have something on here that was very, I think, very hidden away, because people don't focus on that too much. I don't really ever hear people saying, holy shit, Shinji's mother her soul was thrown into a giant robot. That's messed up if you think about it. Like, instead of, her dying in just a normal way, they said, no, let's rip everything that is her and put her into something that she should not be. So let's not let her move on. Let's just throw her into a giant robot. And that's really dark if you think about it. I mean, to me, that's very dark. In many ways, like I said before, besides even just that being a major taboo concept, you also have the stuff that's metaphysical and meta religious. The whole thing of, like I said, angels against humans is something that goes against the principles of Christianity and Catholic concepts and beliefs. That right there is very, very strange, and also in just general very weird. But also, like I said before, if you ever mess with like the concepts of religion, that is very taboo in itself. So I think Evangelion is something that people will not realize has a lot of taboo stuff in it, because it's not very obvious, and I love that about the show. So if you're looking for a little bit of I want to say one of those shows that you can really think about and kind of really delve around looking at different ways and try to kind of break apart some of the taboo concepts, and also, like I said before, the religious stuff, can't go wrong with Evangelion. Now, number 8, Yosuga no Sora. This one's not a surprise. This is just blatant taboo concepts. Now, Yosuga no Sora, though, let's start off with one of the major things about it I think people don't realize is that, many people hear about the major incident that happens, of course, around like episode 9, I think it is, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. But Yosuga no Sora, for the most part, is normal up to that episode, because what it is essentially is just the main character getting with different girls, but it's not in a way that's creepy or like harem-esque. It's more so what if scenarios, like he'll get with one girl, then the story will reverse to itself in the beginning, and then have the character getting with another girl and stuff like that. But near the episode 9 mark is where the taboo concept comes in, and I consider it, while it's really dark and stuff, of course, obviously the show's still great. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you could put up with that weird taboo moment, the show is awesome in its own right. But of course, the major goal and the major thing of taboo in this one is, of course, incest. The most obvious incest, because this is blood relation incest. This is where this is creepy. Now, in many ways, I know some people justify, well, it's like they're not fully blood related, they're half blood. That's still blood to me. Like, I mean, no matter what, even if it's only your half sister or your half brother, it's not an adopted brother or sister in this case. It's more so that's your kin. That's your brother and sister that you know that you're thinking of right here, and that is the biggest taboo concept in anything in general in the world. But even more so, you know, especially the show, because that is one of the things that I think turns people off the most about the show. But like I said before, you know, if you could get past that, if you could actually like just get up to that episode, and maybe you don't like incest, so you're like, okay, let me just get up to the part where they switch to her, the one girl. And I'll tell you right now, it's the girl in the middle. I forgot her, Sora. That's her main name. You know, it's, by the way, Yusuke no Sora. I mean, that's obvious. But anyways, if you can get up to that episode with her and then just stop watching it from there, I'll tell you right now, the show's awesome. It's a great romance story. But if you do watch it and continue on, remember that it is going to have incest, and that is probably one of the biggest taboo things on this list, to be honest with you. Anyways, moving on to number 7. Arimo, or I Can't Believe My Sister Is This Cute. Now, I'll say this right now. This is where we get to see who knows the source material versus just the anime. Now, in the anime, obviously, we have our main characters fall in love with one another and their brother and sister. It's, you know, creepy, of course. It's incest, obviously, right? But they never, well, mind you, they never really do anything that's ever super incest related until the very end, which is not even considered, I think, that bad the way they do it. But what the main concept is what I want to focus on here is the taboo concept of that, obviously. But the same token, here's where we get to see taboo versus, you know, U.S. culture versus European or Eastern or another country's culture. Now, in Japan, it's actually legal. It's perfectly legal to marry your first cousin. In many European countries, apparently, it's legal to marry your first cousin. And of course, the United States, that's illegal because they consider it too much close to your blood relation. But in this case, in the original light novel for Remo, that was what they really were. The brother and sister were actually first cousins of each other. They were cousins. And more so, she just lived with the family, and you know, they acted like brother and sister, but they really were not brother and sister. Now, I want to say this right now, though. Besides all that, though, this show is still actually a phenomenally well done show. I enjoy every moment of the show. I know it's weird, the whole concept of like, oh, the brother likes sister. I get that, trust me. But the show, if you see past that, is a very comedical show. It never does anything super creepy. It's always more so a joke. And, you know, more so at the very end is where they have the moment of, you know, quote unquote, the creepy taboo moment. But it's never even that bad in that. It's almost like a kid concept of what they do at the very end. And I'm not going to spoil that in case people want to actually watch the show, because I do know some people have not seen the ending of the show. But I'll say this right now, though. If you really want something that it's not painful to watch, even though it's a taboo concept, you can't do really too bad with the Remo because of the fact, like I said, it's not that creepy. It's not like Yosuke no Sora territory. I'll tell you that right now. There's nothing creepy in that caliber. This is like way toned down. Let's put it in the number sense. Like, so if Yosuke no Sora's taboo concept is like a 10 out of 1 through 10 range, Arimo's about a 2 out of the 1 through 10 range. So that just goes to show you, 10 being of course extreme and 1 being like nothing. This is a good show for that. Now let's move on to number Higurashi. Now people are going, what's so taboo about Higurashi? I've seen Higurashi plenty of times. I've never seen. Main thing of the taboo is the concept of kids being killed. Now, I don't know how many people know about our Western society in general, or even other countries' society, but usually in movies and TV shows, killing kids off is considered very, very taboo. It's considered something you don't do, or you don't show it, obviously. Like, what they'll show, like, for example, they'll show have a little kid being killed off, but they'll never show it on screen. Or only once in a while you ever see something on screen, but it's typically always censored heavily. That's because you don't really want to see kids being killed. I mean, it's typically, as many people are parents, obviously, seeing a child killed almost could give you a trauma of your own kid being killed, and people see it as like a no-no. You don't want to do that. Higurashi, the whole point of the show is little kids being killed. And some of you might go, well, some of them are high school. Yeah, some of them are high school students, yes, because they go to a school that technically allows all age groups from you know, kindergarten to 12th grade. But half the characters of the show are not even past the 5th grade. So, they're kids. You know, besides the main two, like the main characters, a few of them being high schoolers, the rest are kids. And they are killed in horrible ways on screen, and we see it on screen. And we see them as killers also, which is also taboo in itself. But I'll say this right now, Higurashi's still amazing. It's just very dark. Yeah, I'll say that right now. But it's still an amazing show. So definitely go watch that show one day. Anyways, moving on to number 5. Get ready for a mouthful. So, I'll try to do this as well as I can because I always typically mess this up. This is Orichan Dekido I Sei Araba Kenkai Na Yo Ne. Or as it's translated, it doesn't matter if he's my brother, right? With a question mark. Now, Oni AI or Oni I, excuse me, that's the proper way of saying it, is a very funny show. It is a freaking hilarious show, and I wish more people saw this. Right away, they think, oh, brother and sister, so obviously incest. This is where I want to say, no, it's not. I told people all the time. I spoil this for people right away because I think people don't want to watch the show because of obviously the harem elements, but more so the main two being, brother and sister, quote unquote. They're not brother and sister. There's no taboo here per se. But you're Aaron. It's on your taboo list. So is that not tab? Yeah, it's on my taboo list, but it's because it's a show that lies about taboo. Because of course, if they're not brother and sister, it's lying. But in many ways, it's still, you don't know that until the end of the show. That's the thing. And I always tell people, I know people don't want to watch the show. I'm like, no, listen, it's got incest. And I want to watch. No, it does not. They're actually not brother and sister. They don't even know they're brothers. They're adopted. They're adopted. I mean, I know some people still have weird, weird things about like, oh, adopted brother and sister get. Yeah, but still, I think that's more respectful than actually brother and sister getting together. To me at least. In this case, I mean, it's still weird. I still consider it very taboo in many ways, but it's a lot less weird than actually blood relation, right? But Oni I is so funny though, man. Like I love this show because the sister loves her brother so much, and she's like constantly making advances at him in funny, weird ways. I mean, even one part which I think is famous online, which is where she says his name like 15 times. And he's like, okay, you know what? Maybe you should just not call me by my name anymore because he thinks it's creepy. But it's more so because he's also in love with the sister, but he just doesn't want her to know it yet because he wants to make her realize that she needs to grow up a little bit first. And I think that's very interesting. But I love this show in general because it's lying about its taboo. It's still taboo technically because I mean, in many ways, like I said before, adopted stuff, that's weird. But at least it's really not the concept of incest, but it's lying about it. And I think that's funny because it's like, wow, that's what the fuck. So honestly, definitely check this show out one day. It's funny, you'll enjoy it. I love the show. It's a good harem. I'll tell you right now, a lot of the other girls can't stand a candle to the main girl. Obviously, they try, but they can't. But the show in general is funny. I think it's awesome to watch. Number 4, before my voice goes out, Black Bullet. Now, Black Bullet, I'll tell you right now, is a very, 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 very hard stretch with the word of taboo. But it's the concept that's in it that makes the show taboo in nature. Now, of course, obviously, as you know, the whole thing is with our main characters fighting against these alien-like creatures, the Gestrea. But more so is that we have their, secondary characters or partners in this case as being these cursed children that are all under their age, like 14 years old, that have embedded powers into them from the essentially like affection of the other creatures that came into being. Now, of course, obviously that means lowly. This whole show is lowly. So there's about like half the cast of girls, maybe actually no more than that, but probably like 85% of the cast of girls in the show are under the age of 14, and it's all creepy that way. But if you get past that stuff, the show's amazing. I mean, I think honestly, Black Bullet is an amazing show. I think the books are way better. So I'll say that right now. Like to me, light novels. If you love light novels, you can't go wrong with the light novel series. It's way better than the anime is. But in general, though, the show is awesome. I know a lot of people hate the show and have issues with it because it ends on a very big cliffhanger. We're not going to get obviously any more because the studio canceled the project after it was done with their 13 episodes. But I'll say this right now. Those 13 episodes are full of action, full of excitement, some lollies if you love lollies, because I know a lot of people love lollies. And I know the people out there that know who they are that love lollies. Yeah, you like lollies, so don't be freaking, just admit that you like them and just watch the show. Black Bullet's an amazing show. Let's move on to number 3, MM. Now, MM is probably the biggest one. Like, I'll be honest with you, it's like if you had to really do rankings of the most taboo stuff in the show, it's probably MM at the forefront. So it's definitely worth like it being like number 3 spot. But like I said before, there's not really a ranking video, so I'm not trying to say that this is more than any of the other shows, but it does have some huge amounts of taboo concepts, namely cross-dressing, namely people that have god complex, people that are into masochism, people that are into, I want to say incest in their own rights, etc. This whole show is the treasure trove of taboo concepts. Now, people might say, well, yeah, but is cross-dressing really taboo? Yeah, it is taboo. no matter what, like I'm not saying anything wrong. Listen, if you want to do stuff like that, I don't think it's right per se. But I'll never say, oh, you're a terrible person for doing that, because you do you live your life the way every way you want it to. That's the bottom line to this way. But big concept of the word taboo is very that, because the thing is that that's going against the norms of society. So no matter what, you're going against the norms of society, so you can see it as a taboo person or a taboo concept. In MM, this whole show, like I said before, is a treasure trove of taboo people. I mean, the main character being a masochist in general, one of the main girls being super into god complex mode, another character being into cross dressing as a girl even though he's a dude. Those are all very, very taboo concepts, especially to see all of them in one anime. I think is hilarious in its own right. That's why I think out of everything on the show, like, this is one of the funniest shows ever. And unfortunately, the author died before he could finish the series, so we'll never get a fully completed series for this, which pains me because I think it's one of the funniest comedy shows I've ever seen in anime, to be honest with you. It just throws out so many different, like I said before, taboo concepts, but they're always funny to kind of almost make fun of seeing a character on screen going through these outrageous things. Like, the main character, again, being a masochist, the stuff that happens to him, like, typically would be seen as another character's, like, pain and suffering, is his joy and bliss. That's funny. That comes off as hilarious to me, to be honest with you. And if you get past all that stuff, this show is just funny to watch. So definitely go check out MM. Number 2 now. Showbiz. Now, showbiz is the perfect example of something taboo because of the sheer fact that we have a boy falling in love with an android. In this case, a female android. And guess what? No matter what, that is the prime example of taboo in the world. Because it's a human falling in love with anything that's not a human, and that right away is something that sends warning flags to everyone. Like, oh, whoa, what? You fell in love with this? You fell in love with that? No matter what, if you don't fall in love with a human, like even people that are homosexual, for example, are seen as less weird than people that fall in love with other things that are not human. So, a case in point, like the various stories you might have heard of people fall in love with inanimate objects or, dolls, etc. Those are seen even more weird in the world and more taboo than anything else. Heterosexual, homosexual are still considered okay versus having, a person fall in love with something that does not love you back, or that you find an actual real soul with that person. Now, showbiz pushes the whole concept of taboo because what it does is it has to have the character Chi, of course, being a cyborg or excuse me, an android in this case, that actually starts getting a real soul, or at least has a soul embedded into her. But many people argue, is that really a soul? Is that just something that was artificially placed in her and that just, of course, grew with her? That's where the whole thing of showbiz, the kind of charm comes into play, of course, is that we have Hideki and Chi going together and falling in love with one another, despite, one being a regular boy and one being a not real girl. But I'll say this right now. Showbiz is an amazing show. I mean, I think it's one of the best romance stories around in terms of, like, anything anime. And I feel like the closest thing, if you really don't want to watch Showbiz, you want something more new age, because Showbiz is kind of old. It's like 2000 something that it came out. You can go Plastic Memories. I was thinking of putting Plastic Memories on this list earlier, but I feel that that's less well done than Showbiz in many ways, but it is very good still nonetheless, so you can definitely check that out. And I'll make sure to put like a highlight in the description box saying Plastic Memories if you really want something new. But anyways, let's move on to number 1, the final one. Dusk, Mania of Amnesia. Now, no one should be surprised that this is on my list, because obviously, this is another prime example of a main character being a regular human being falling in love with something that is not regular. In this case, it's a ghost. Now, very similar to Sankareya. Sankareya is another perfect example, I think, in many ways, of a taboo relationship, because, of course, in that case, that's a necrophilia, because that, no matter what, listen, the guy is in love with a zombie. That's weird. No, I don't care who puts that where, like, oh, she came back to life. No, she's a zombie. Her body is decaying half the time of that show as a joke, but it's still a zombie. In this case, it's a ghost. Now, there have been other shows that have done this before in the past. I mean, there are other shows that have just in general had either ghosts or, people like that fall in love with main characters. It's been done in Western movies. It's been done in Eastern movies. But I think Dusk, Mania of Amnesia is a perfect example of probably one of the most taboo type concepts still being such a beautiful and great story. I mean, I know some people might say, well, she's a ghost though. He's not doing any necrophilia because her body... her body is a ghost, and he touches her at times. Still weird. Still, I don't care how you want to put that. Still weird. But I love this show. I think this is one of my favorite shows still. I mean, as many of you know, this is always on my top 10 list of like all-time favorite shows. But anyways, guys and girls, I hope in general you love this top 10 Taboo Anime list. I know some of you might be going, these are some weird shows. I hope that's the case because, hey, that's the point. Taboo is weird in general. Now, if you guys have any recommendations for other top 10s, feel free to put them in the comments. I have a few more coming up that I have ideas for, but it always helps me to have some more, choices to make. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye-bye.